Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about our 9th Age Homebrew campaign, and this is a battle report. This is the first battle that I fought in the campaign, and this battle took place on turn 4. So if you have not first watched my 9th Age campaign homebrew overview, you should watch that first. It'll give you a general idea of what this homebrew campaign is all about, and it also might be helpful to watch turn 4 so that you also will understand why these two armies are fighting here, because I don't really want to go into that in this video. Okay, so this battle took place, I believe, on November 30th in 2019. It took place at the Grail Chapel. So I'm going to take a look here at the map. So this is the southern portion of the map that we are playing on. In green, I am the Sylvan Elves. I had my headquarters start in these woods, which is very nice. And I'm actually going to be playing. You can see there's two banners in the Grail Chapel. Those are the two banners that are now fighting. A battle happens when there's two banners in the same space, obviously. That can only happen when you're fighting a battle. This is Undying Dynasties, my opponent. His headquarters is right here in these flatlands, not far from my headquarters. So uh, we actually are starting to clash a lot in the campaign, but this was our first battle together. You can see we're going to be vying over this territory. So that's basically all that I wanted to show you from this map. Let's move on to what is the Grail Chapel. The Grail Chapel was in a forest map section. What does that mean for this map? Really what that means is it gives me a special bonus because I am the Sylvan Elves. My special campaign bonus is anytime I fight a battle into the in a wood space, I get to add an extra 200 points to my banner just for that battle, because that just represents the fact that Sylvan Elves seem to always have allies when they're fighting in the woods. So that's what that means. Let's go on to what are the implications of the Grail Chapel. This is a special section on the map, and special sections have special rules associated with them. So each turn an army banner holds or fortifies if it would lose points in this territory, you roll a d6. And you don't make this roll if the territory is raised. When you have a raised area, it doesn't have any special rules associated with it. All right? So you roll d6 if you're going to hold there. So if either one of our banners wins, one of us has to win, then on following turns we could hold. And then something special will happen if you hold. But let's see what this means. If you roll 1 to 2, the banner has no changes. Okay, fair enough. But on a 3 to 5, a Kingdom of Aquitaine banner's max size increases by 2d6 times 40 points up to a maximum of 9,000 points. Any non-Kingdom of Aquitaine banner loses 2d6 times 20 points to a minimum of 3,000 points. And if this would cause it to go below 3,000 points, the banner is scattered instead. That's just one of the special rules we're playing in the campaign. The maximum army size is 9,000, is the size of your banner. Minimum is 3,000. If you go below 3,000, you're scattered. So that way we're not going to end up with super unbalanced battles. You're still going to have some, but you're not going to have an army that's 1,500 points walking around. So here we are. And on a rule of 6, those numbers are just inflated. If you are Kingdom of Aquitaine banner, you get 2d6 times 100 points. If you're non-Kingdom of Aquitaine, you lose 2d6 times 50. So actually, this is really a funny battle because neither one of us actually wants to hold here on following turns because we're both non-Kingdom of Aquitaine, so we're going to lose points if we stay there. So essentially, we're fighting over a special space that we want to keep because it counts as a special space, but we don't actually want to keep our banner there. So it's kind of a funny battle. Deployment and terrain is generated as in a forest space. However, after deployment zones are chosen, the defender places a Holy Sepulchre building, which is the Knights of Aquitaine unique terrain feature, anywhere in the deployment zone. If attacker or defender was a turn by rule off, the building is placed halfway between the two zones. All right. I think I put in the special rules for Holy Sepulchre. So those are just the general campaign rules for Grail Chapel. Now we're going to look at the specific rules for a battle. Okay, so this is what the Grail Chapel rules are only when you're fighting a battle there. So unique fortified terrain for Kingdom of Aquitaine, Holy Sepulchre. All right. The cursed dare not trespass. The pious may pay respects in hope that the light may shine upon them. right? Seems fluff-wise to fit what Kingdom of Aquitaine is all about. This is one of their special rules. So this is actually a special building that if they fight a battle at their headquarters or in a fortified space, I believe they are able to place this special building there as well. So this is kind of cool. Otherwise, you're not going to encounter this. You're only going to encounter this at the Grail Chapel or if you're fighting a battle at a Kingdom of Aquitaine headquarters. So it's a building. Now, if you remember from my overview video, or I don't remember if I covered it there, but we are treating buildings differently. You're able to move into them. So in typical 9th Age battles, you are not able to move into buildings, but in this you are. So this is the special rules for this building. Smite the Heretic. When a Holy Sepulchre is garrisoned by a unit from the Kingdom of Aquitaine army book, natural to hit rolls of 1 by close combat attacks from enemies assaulting the building hit their own unit. The attacker distributes the hit. So that's kind of like mirrored scales from the demons list. Undead and superno models in a unit garrisoning a Holy Sepulchre take X dangerous terrain tests, X dangerous terrain 3 at the end of every movement phase, where X is equal to 5 or equal to the number of models in the unit's first rank, whichever is higher. Okay? Okay, so just for affects basically one rank. This is just because it's a holy building, so demons and undead are not able to be in there without taking dangerous terrain tests. All right, and this is dangerous terrain 3. So that means on a roll of 1, 2, or 3, they fail the dangerous terrain test. Personally, I think that's the way dangerous terrain should be more widely throughout 9th Age. Most dangerous terrain tests are only on a roll of 1, and I don't think that's dangerous enough. I've seen entire units march through forest space or something that should be dangerous terrain, and they'll lose like one model, okay? It doesn't deter people from actually going to dangerous terrain. Personally, I think dangerous terrain should be a lot more dangerous. Um, because I often avoid it. I don't go into ruins because I'm just afraid of it, and then other people just waltz through ruins as if there's nothing there. So, anyway, I like this rule. It's real special. Um, so it's interesting. All right, and there's a second rule, Pious Tithe. At the end of Siphon the Veil phase, this is part of the magic phase, the active player may discard X Veil tokens from their Veil token pool and choose a single friendly unit within 6 of the Holy Sepulchre. The chosen unit gains the effects listed below according to the number of discarded Veil tokens. The effects are cumulative, i.e., if 3 Veil tokens were discarded, the unit gains all 3 effects. So you lose Veil tokens if you use this, but then you can give special rules to units that are within 6 of this building. That's a pretty short range, but it just means that if you're fighting within basically 6 sensors is basically a typical aura. So basically, if you're fighting within the aura of the Holy Sepulchre, you get these bonuses if you discard the Veil tokens. Personally, I would probably change it to, well, maybe that's fair. Maybe that's fair. I was going to say maybe you should remove the Veil token rule so that it's just automatically any friendly unit within 6 gains these bonuses, but maybe that's fine to have it be this way. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. So if you discard 1 Veil token, 1 or more, the unit automatically passes all panic tests. 2 or more, the unit is immune to the effects of fear. And 3 or more, attacks against this unit suffer -1 armor penetration. And these effects last until the start of the active player's next player turn. So obviously these are very good for a Kingdom of Aquitaine player. And because I'm going up against Undying Dynasties, these could actually be good for me as well in the battle. All right, let's move on to the list. So as I said, it's the Sylvan Elves versus Undying Dynasties. This is my banner 1 from Sylvan Elves. It's called Luhue's Forest Band. So let's take a look at what was in there. I tried to remember. It's changed since. So I try to remember what exactly I had in there just from looking at some of the pictures. So this is what I had. At a Treeman Ancient, he's my general. He has Obsidian Rock, and he's a Wizard Master. Now, something special we're doing in this, when you roll your character, not only do you have to pick the lore, you actually have to pick the spells. So these are the spells he has for the entire campaign. Unless there's some sort of random event or something special that will allow him to change his spells, he has to use these same spells for the entire campaign. This is different from typical 9th Age where you pick your spells at the beginning of the battle. You have to keep the same lore. So anyway, so I picked Fate's Judgment, Scrying, The Stars Align, and Unerring Strike. Alright, then I also have a Forest Prince on an Elven Horse with Wild Hunter Kindred. He's got a shield, he's got Light Armor with Death Cheater, he's got Elven Cloak, he's got Sylvan Blades with Titanic Might. This guy is a beast. He's just pretty ridiculous, alright? Elven Princes, Forest Princes, excuse me, they start with 4 attacks. When he's in the Wild Hunter Kindred, he has 5 attacks. When he charges, he also gets +1 attack because Wild Hunter Kindred gives him devastating charge +1 attack. So let's see, he's at 4. Wild Hunter gives him 5. When he charges, he has 6. And he's using paired weapons, so he has 7 attacks. And Titanic Might gives him an additional +3 strength. So he's got 7 strength, 7 attacks when he charges with battle focus. So a lot of times he's actually churning out. He's pretty much hitting usually with 7 or 8 hits. And then at strength 7, it's gonna be you're gonna wound and kill most things. So this guy's a beast. You do probably notice he's on an Elven Horse. I know everyone's running these Wild Hunters on stags. But guess what? Why do I run him on a horse? For the simple reason of I don't own a stag. So if anyone would like to purchase me a stag, I would probably start to use one. But for right now, I'm just sticking with them on horses. I've actually had a lot of success with them on horses. And the one bonus that I like with them on a horse is that you still have movement 9, 18. When you put them on a stag, your movement is reduced to advance rate 8 instead of 9, and your march rate is 16 instead of 18. So it hampers the movement a little bit. Now, probably 8 and 16 is still good enough movement for everything you really want movement for, but I still like to have that movement 9 and 18, and then I put them in a unit as well. So, which we'll go over later. In core, I have 30 Forest Guard with spears. They have Standard Bearer with a Predator Pendant. Now, Predator Pendant, if you're not familiar with Sylvan Elves, it's a special Sylvan Elf banner, and Predator Pendant gives them distracting when they charge. It's devastating charge distracting. So normally spears don't want to charge, but if they charge, they have distracting. So they're very good on defense and on offense because of this. This is why I gave it to them. People normally don't want to charge Elven spears, and they'd rather be charged by them, but with Predator Pendant, you're not going to hit me either. So, well, you're going to have a harder time hitting me with distracting because it gives -1 to hit. And then I had 6 Heath Hunters, my favorite chaff unit, 2 units of 10 Dryads. And then I had, in special, I had 7 Wild Hunters with a Standard Bearer, also with a Sylvan Elf banner called Banner of Deception. Now, Sylvan Elf Banner of Deception means that at the end of the deployment, you can actually redeploy this unit anywhere in the battlefield. So this allows me to really, I drop this unit early just to get it on the board as a drop because I'm just going to redeploy it typically most of the time. So now if you do remember, you watched my earlier videos, there was actually a random event that gave this unit faulty armor. So they actually don't have light armor. So uh, and they should have shields. I didn't type that in. They have shields. So they're mounted and they have shields, but the faulty armor gives them -1 armor. So they can't use light armor when they have faulty armor, is what that means. Alright, and then I have Forest Rangers with Vanguard and a champion. Why do I only have 10 Forest Rangers? For the simple reason of I only own 10 Forest Rangers. Now, just recently, I have been trying to purchase them. I've purchased some additional models, and I am looking forward to seeing if I can assemble them. But it's going to take a little bit of customization. They're not actual elves that I bought, and so I have to tweak them and make them look a little bit more like elves and rangers. So hopefully in the future, I'm planning on running either more units of 10 or bigger units. So keep an eye out for that. Then I had 3 Kestrel Knights, a Forest Eagle, and 9 Pathfinders. Now, as I said before, because I'm fighting in a forest space, I get 200 extra points. What did I do with those 200 extra points? I took an additional 2 Kestrel Knights, so I actually had a unit of 5 Kestrel Knights, and I took an additional 5 Forest Guard, I believe. So I couldn't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's what I did with 200 points. You tell me, if this was your list and you had to add 200 points, what would you add to it? There are lots of things. I could have added a 3rd unit of Dryads. I could have just had a much bigger unit of Forest Guard, though personally I actually only own 42 Forest Guard, so I could have only added 12. 200 points. I could have taken a bigger unit of Heath Hunters. I could have taken uh, another 5 Pathfinders, which would have been interesting. I could have taken more Wild Hunters. So it's kind of It's kind of up to whatever. And I don't think those 200 points have to meet the requirements for the army list. It doesn't have to, I don't have to have enough core to cover that. So anyway, that's what I chose. I chose some core just because I felt like 30 spears might not be enough. 35 was better. And I found that 3 Kester stones didn't really do that much. I really wanted to have 5 in that unit anyway. So there you go. Now, this is my opponent, Pharaoh Tessemen's first division. I don't have his specific list, but from looking at the pictures and from what I remember from playing him, I believe this is what he had. So he may have had an additional character, I don't remember. I'm sorry I don't have his magic items either, but he had a Pharaoh, and I know he was Lord of the Barrow Legion, because his guys had extra armor. And then he had at least 1 Death Cult Hierarch. He had 5 Skeleton Scouts. Remember these guys, Skeleton Scouts, they're actually mounted, um, but they can scout and ambush. Actually, they can't ambush, I don't think. They scout and they vanguard, so they're really flexible and good for chaff. 14 skeleton archers, 12 skeleton archers. He had a lot of archers, and I think he might have had a no mark because I know he at least put his pharaoh in a unit of archers, and he might have put a no mark in a unit of archers. He likes to do that to give them better to hit. It increases their aim to 4 instead of 5. Then he had at least 30 skeletons with halberds. Again, these are the Barrow Legion, so these guys have heavy armor. They're a little more tanky. And he had 15 skeleton cavalry with lances, and he had 4 shoppies with paired weapons. Personally, I also play on Dynasties. I always take shoppies with halberds because I'll see a lot of people running with paired weapons, so that's up to him. The models I have actually have halberds. That's partly why I run with them. I kind of like to do a little bit more WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. I don't like to pretend that they're using paired weapons, even when they looks like they have halberds. It just makes it easier for the opponent if they can look at it and say, "Hey, I know exactly what that model is equipped with because that's exactly what the model is holding." Um, Now, personally, if I was running this list, I would have taken probably the Pharaoh and I would have put him in a halberd unit just to make that a lot scarier. And I probably would have taken a no mark and mounted him and put him with the Skeleton Cav, but I don't think that's what he did. Personally, that's what I do. I also told him after the battle that he would have been better off if he put musicians in his archer units. I think he actually put standard bearers in there. And I think we were playing it wrong. I looked it up after the fact. He thought that when you crumble, if you lose your general and you start to crumble, he thought that if you had a standard bearer, that would help reduce your crumbling. But I looked it up, and that special rule. It's rally around the flag. I think he thinks that applies to all standard bearers. That special rule was only applying to battle standard bearers, not to regular ones. So, uh, don't make that mistake, Undyne Dynasties players. Put musicians in your archers, makes them a lot more flexible. You don't need standard bearers in there. I think he put him in, but anyway, I apologize. I don't have his list. The way we're playing this campaign, we don't really share lists, so you have no idea what you're fighting until you're actually fighting it. We do review what each unit is when you're actually starting to deploy onto the battlefield, just so the opponent knows. But other than that, we don't actually see a physical list. We keep those all secret and hidden throughout the campaign. All right, now we're going into the pre-battle. So there's some special things that we do in this campaign that's different from a typical Ninth Age battle. Just makes it more interesting. So these are things, this is called strategic rule. You do this as the attacker and as the defender. You get to pick basically a special way that you're allowed to deploy. So we do this instead of, well, these kind of encompass the deployment scenarios in the main Ninth Age rulebook, but there's also additional ones that we use. And instead of rolling randomly to see what you get, you actually get to pick it. So you feel like an actual tactical general picking the way your army's going to deploy on the battlefield. So each side generally actually deploys differently. Okay? And the way this is determined is you take your general's leadership and you take the number of scouting units in your list, and then your scouting units give you bonuses to your rule, and then you pair off your general's leadership versus your opponent's general leadership, and then you get to add your scout bonus or something. And so if you have more scouts in your army, you generally get to pick, you have a better chance of picking the deployment that you want. Which is kind of interesting, and it adds a dynamic of why you may want more scouting units in your army. So anyway, what happened was I believe my opponent only he got to pick one, and then I picked several different ones, and I got to choose which one I wanted after I saw what his response was. Or I think something like that. So he picked Echelon, and I picked Encircle. So Echelon, the defender's deployment. So the way this works is he picked. There's a whole chart. He picked Echelon and I picked Encircle. And so where Echelon and Encircle meet on the graph, it's like a grid. We get this deployment. So okay, he is the. Okay, I chose to be the defender. The defender's deployment zone is 18 inches away from the center line in the middle, one half of his deployment zone. The two board edges, each 1/4 of the length of the board, are 15 inches away from the middle line. The defender must designate 4 score units, which will gain the ambush special rule, and must ambush. The attacker's deployment zone is the diagonal lines from both sides of the table. So basically, the attacker is deploying in one triangle. It's kind of like a lance formation almost. He's coming at me. I chose Encircle, which actually meant that I had to choose 4 scoring units, which will gain the ambush special rule. If you remember my list, I actually only have 4 scoring units, so that means that my Forest Guard, my big unit of Spearmen, my 2 units of Dryads, and my Forest Rangers are all ambushing. In addition to that, I have the Wild Hunter unit that gets to redeploy because of Banner Deception. I have the Kestrels and the Heath Hunters, which vanguard, and I have the Pathfinders, which scout. So it was actually really hard for him to deploy against me. So let's take a look at what the deployment actually looked like. Now, I apologize. I didn't really take pictures at all. This is actually me. Uh, so here's the Grail Chapel on my side. And then I think these are the woods. These are my woods, I think I put down. Because I get free woods as a Sylvan Elf player. So I originally, back here behind the Grail Chapel, actually behind these woods is where I put my Wild Hunters. I originally deployed them over here behind the hill, and then this was where I redeployed them to. I deployed my Kestrels over here, and this is actually after a Vanguard. You can see they probably deployed back here, and then they Vanguarded up. Or actually, no, I think I started them here, and then I Vanguarded them across the river. I put my General here, which is actually probably a kind of a poor decision. I should have put him over here because more of the battle took place over in this quadrant. But then I have my Heath Hunters here, and my Scouts are in the ruins. My Pathfinders are in the ruins. And that's all I got to deploy because everything else is ambushing. So I just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. My opponent put archers on his flank. He put his shopties to protect them. Put archers here. Put his big block of halberds. Put archers here. He put his big unit of cav. And then he put his scouts over here. So that was his deployment. Let's just see basically what happens. You can see my wild hunters back here. I think he got to go first. I believe he might have dropped to go first, or I don't remember. Um, so he's just pushing up on me. He does have shooting, uh, but he doesn't have that much to shoot at from the way I deployed. So I think he wanted to come forward and try to smash me before my ambushing units came in, which was kind of actually bad for me. Um, turn 2. So I don't have that many pictures, so I'm just going to show you what happened. Basically, let's go. Wait, previous. All right. So you can't see it. My Kestrel's vanguard up. Let's go to deployment. So all I remember is my Kestrel's vanguarded across the river. Then they basically turned, got on the flank, and they're just gonna just eat this unit, right? That's basically what they do this game. They eat this unit, and then they fly over here. His Shopties come forward, trying to get my general. Um, what I do is I do Strangle Roots on them. I cast Divination spells on them. I whittle them down. Because I'm a single model unit, I'm a lot more maneuverable than him. I keep dancing around because he gets to like here, and then I keep moving around out of his arc. He gets real irritated. He just wants to charge me and fight me, and I don't let him do that. Eventually, later in the game, my Dryads ambush in from here to pick up this objective. And then his Shopties charge my Dryads, and my Dryads actually kill them. Because Shopties really aren't that tough after they were whittled down, especially by him. So he was pretty upset. My little unit of Dryads ate him up. That's basically all that my general did this game. I didn't really deploy him correctly, but he was fine. Basically what happens over here, let's look at the pictures. So basically what happened was uh, his unit came up and he didn't intentionally frenzy bait me, but he ended up doing it. So I failed my leadership test. My wild hunters had to make a charge. So they charged this unit. This unit was up here. They charged it. They killed it on the charge in one turn because they have the general. Well, not the general. They have the forest prince in there who does 7 strength, 7 attacks of battle focus. Plus, there's another like 6 models in the front rank. So they all do, plus a champion, so that's another 19 strength 5 attacks. They just totally eat that unit. And then they overrun so that they don't get charged by these halberds. I had moved my eagle up in front of him because I wasn't positive that I was going to break his skeleton horseman unit. I'm not sure. I haven't played enough to know what my units can actually do. So I put my eagle here so that he wouldn't be able to charge my wild hunters in the flank. Pathfinders and heath hunters are just shooting stuff up. You can see my spearmen come on from ambushing, and that's basically it. I don't have any more pictures really. So basically what happens, it's basically from this point onward, already from like turn 2, the game is pretty much over for him. He wasn't able to leverage his shooting very well. My wild hunters just ate up his units. Um, my spears did end up fighting the halberds in the game. I fought them and then I broke. I didn't stay in combat, but I stayed on the board and they were able to rally. Later on in the game, I had Dryads come on. I don't think I actually killed his halberd unit, but I was closing in for the kill. My Kestrels ate up this unit back here, as you saw, and I killed the Shopties. I think I killed both of his characters, so all we had left was this halberd unit, and I didn't really lose anything, so that's basically it. I'm sorry I don't have more pictures. And the battle itself wasn't that exciting, but it was a pretty lopsided battle. I think I had something like 4,200 points. Or actually, I think it was 4,300 because of the extra 200. And I think he was only at around 3,400. So I'm pretty sure I had like a 900 point advantage. I wasn't actually able to leverage it because of my ambushing units. The forest rangers, excuse me, forest rangers never came on the board. So that was 260 points that didn't get to participate. Over on this flank, let's go back to deployment because you can just see the battle better. Over on this flank, the Kestros ate this unit, and that's basically all they did. They were at the end of the game. They were positioning in a way to charge the halberds, but by that point, I'd fought them, and I wasn't really sure if I could actually do that much against the halberds. One of my Dryad units just picked up the objective. Although the objectives don't really mean as much in this campaign. And then my other Dryad unit came over here to pressure the rear of this halberd unit at the end of the game. And that's basically all that happened. So, thank you for joining this battle report of the Battle of the Grail Chapel. Um, as I play battles in this campaign, I'm going to try to take pictures and have more detailed battle reports. I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of the flavor and the fluff of how battles are working because they are a little bit different from typical 9th Age battles. If you want to find out more about 9th Age tabletop miniature game, you can go to 9thage.com. Just type in ninth, Ninth, ninthage.com, and that should take you there. You can also search for them. The abbreviation 9th Age people often use is T9A. So that's T for the 9 for ninth and A for age. T9A. You can search by that as well. And I hope that you will, if you play this game, I hope that you keep playing, keep assembling your models, keep painting them. You can see I have a lot of work left to do on mine. I hope that the sixes will be with you, and have a great rest of your day.